everyone, my name is Chrissy and welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be reviewing Kings of the Wyld by Nicholas Eames. Kings of the Wyld follows a group of retired mercenaries, starting with a gentleman named Clay Cooper, who is our main character. Clay gets a visit from an old mercenary bandmate named Gabriel, who's saying, "Hey Clay, can you please come help me save my daughter from the Horde, the Heartwild Horde." And Clay at first says, no, but then ends up getting convinced to go with Gabriel to find their other ex-bandmates in order to save Rose, Gabriel's daughter. I love this book so much. This book has a perfect combination of action and humor that I love in fantasy novels. The pacing is really well done. You get action to action. You're wondering how things are going to be wrapped up. Sometimes you're worried, are they going to get there in time? And then you're like, yes, they'll get there in time. And it's a really ping pong of emotions, but in a great way. I loved also the characterizations. The characters are one of the best things about this book. It's very much a character-driven novel, at least in my eyes. I think so, because it's fantastic. Let me introduce you to some of the characters that I love. First, there is Clay Cooper. Clay Cooper is our main character, and his main weapon is a shield. It's a shield that is made from a treant who he felled back in his mercenary days. I love Clay Cooper because he reminds me of old biker men who have just got really tired and is tired of everyone's shit and just wants to live a happy life. And Clay just wants that. He just wants peace, man. He just wants to settle down with his little daughter who collects frogs and his beautiful wife, and he just wants to live his life. He doesn't want all of this nonsense that his friends keep piling on him. But he's also a very loyal friend, and he's very kind. He's also a very badass individual who can take you down with a sludge of his shield. It's fantastic. He's a great character, and I'm really glad that we get primarily his point of view. It's a limited third person, but I'm so glad that we primarily follow him throughout this book. Now, while I love Clay Cooper, Moog the Wizard is by far my favorite character. Moog is an old gay wizard who is just the funniest. He's one of the, I think, the most immature characters as far as he's very enthusiastic. He is very playful most of the time. And one of his main weapons ends up being this hat that can shoot food out of it. And he ends up like fighting with that. Like it's his gun. He's like, ah, and those chickens just flying out. I think Moog is fantastic. And he is such a great character. I love him so much. Then we get Moog's best friend, Matrick. Matrick is one of the bandmates who ends up becoming king of this country when he marries a princess back in his younger years. And the reason why I drew his tummy is not to fat shame Matrick, because who am I to judge? But rather because it's fairly denoted that he went to excess in drinking and kind of partying up in his younger days. And then as an older man, he gained a lot of weight. He's not as athletically inclined. However, Matrick doesn't lose really his fighting ability just because he put on a few pounds. And I think I love that a lot. Like, just because Matty's big doesn't mean he can't fight. He fights. He still remembers how. It's just, he likes his booze. Right? Now, I'm not going to draw all the other characters. I did love them very much as well. There's Ganlin, who ends up being just this badass who takes everyone on, and he's the main fighting force out of the whole band. And then there's Gabriel, who he was the least stand out of all the characters, but I think that's just because Gabriel has a single focus throughout this novel, and it really shows that he's a shell of his former self. So where he used to be this very charismatic and, leader of the band, as an older man, he kind of lost a lot of that luster. He lost a lot of his sense of self in that time period. And I think the book does a really good job of showcasing that. It's just, unfortunately, I think Gabriel gets outshined by almost all the other personalities around him. Now, you may be saying, Christina, that's a lot of sausage in this book. That's a lot of sausage. No worries. There are kick-ass ladies that are in this book. There's Larkspur, who is one of the bounty hunters that goes after the mercenaries. There's also Jane and the Silk Arrows. Jane is the leader of this group of gals who are thieves, and they're just fantastic. I love them to pieces. So I wasn't too much concerned that all the main characters were men, mainly because the way that this book is written, it's supposed to be, I guess, an allegory of rock bands. So it's this nice kind of look, a good nod at back in the day rock bands and how the new wave of rock bands are coming in. So like Jane and the Silk Arrows would represent a new band coming in and playing at a stadium. And instead in this world, it's that they're a new mercenary band that's coming up and really making a name for themselves. I really love this book. It's so good. Now, granted, I will say if I had any qualms with this book, there are a few plot points where I thought that they're flimsy at best, especially how the mercenary band gets through the Wyld and to Rose, I thought was a little bit but really. However, it didn't really bother me too much because I still enjoyed this novel a lot. This is right up my alley. And if you're really into humor mixed in with big adventure and big feels, then this is the book for you. I really loved when Gabriel comes to Clay's house and asks if Clay will help him get his daughter back. Clay at first says no, but it's not until Clay's daughter comes in and says, well, if I was trapped, you would help me, right? And she's saying this not in a shameful way because she's really young. She's like 9, I think. And she's more just saying it as, well, you would help me, right? Like as this being sure that her father would actually come for her if she was trapped in that kind of situation. And that's the point that you actually felt for Clay and his situation, because you understand that he doesn't want to go because he has his life that it is and that he could very well die while he's going to get Rose. But at the same time, if his daughter was in trouble, he'd want his friends to come help him as well. If this kind of fantasy is up your speed, go check it out. It's fantastic. I loved it to pieces. If you like this video, give it that thumbs up button. If you like seeing this face talk about books, hit that subscribe button. And as always and forever, may you get lost in a book.